very much for coming along. We're really excited to have you all this evening. So this is the second session in our Women's Off-Road Cycling Community of Practice in Wales series. And so first I'll just kind of introduce a bit about Project Fierce and how this session has kind of come about before we then kind of get into the main session, which is around demystifying ride leadership. So I won't spend too long on this because we've already kind of introduced, we've had a session where we've introduced the work that we're doing, but I think it's helpful to just give a little bit of context and also to kind of draw your attention to some of the upcoming events that we've got. So Project Fierce, for anybody who doesn't know, is a research and impact project aimed at addressing gender inequality in mountain biking. So we've partnered with Baker Cymru, so formerly Welsh Cycling, and MB Wales to help kind of realise the shared goal of making Wales a global leader for gender inclusive mountain biking. So for anybody who doesn't know, MB Wales is a hub for mountain biking in Wales, kind of made up of a group of key stakeholders working to promote Wales as a world-class destination for mountain biking. So the MB Wales, the newly formed MB Wales steering group, have adopted the Fierce framework to underpin the part of their strategy that's aimed at helping to make Wales a leader in gender inclusive mountain biking. So working collaboratively with both Baker Cymru and MB Wales, so Lindsay, who is the MB Wales Women and Girls Officer, we've developed kind of activities to support the development of women's off-road cycling in Wales using the kind of 4 key areas of the framework. So I don't have time kind of to go through too much detail about the framework today, but I'll put a link to the chat. I'm going to put lots of links in the chat so to kind of give you so you can all follow up on and find out more information about the framework and the other activities that we've got coming up as well. So as part of this work, where we're embedding the framework in Wales, we've also set up this women's off-road cycling community of practice. So this is kind of a series of different events. So the first one, we started off with an introductory session where we introduced kind of Project Fierce, the work that we're doing, the framework, and also kind of our regional champions, who many of whom are here today, and also to kind of go through the activities in a bit more detail. So that brings us to today's session, which is all around kind of demystifying ride leadership. And this is aimed at anybody who's thinking about doing their ride leader training, or maybe want to know a little bit more about it before they kind of take that step. And I'll talk through that in a bit more detail in a moment. But first of all, I wanted to kind of draw everyone's attention to the next event that we've got coming up, which is on Friday, the 23rd of May. And this is a community building workshop. So we've co-created a women's community building toolkit, which sets out kind of best practice and is filled with kind of resources and guidance for how women's mountain biking communities can get set up, can grow, and also continue to develop and become more inclusive and so on. So the toolkit was developed in consultation with a range of experts, including women's cycling group leaders, who shared a lot about their learnings, their challenges, and also kind of their experiences with setting up their own communities. So the workshop will be kind of really comprehensive, but also very interactive, with lots of opportunity to kind of connect with other people who are setting up their kind of women's mountain bike communities, or maybe have already set up theirs. So an opportunity to kind of find out from other people how they've kind of gone about it, and maybe be able to kind of answer any questions that you might have and things like that. So the event will be hybrid. So it will be in person at Bike Park Wales, and there will also be the opportunity to join the workshop element online. But for those who do attend in person, we're going to hold a ride in the afternoon, which we're funding the uplift for that. So uplift will be free for the day, and so we'll have the workshop element in the morning, we'll stop for lunch, and then we will have the ride in the afternoon. And so there are still spaces left. It is by application, so because the spaces are limited, we're prioritising people in Wales because that's the nature of the project. But we are also opening it up to anybody. So do kind of register your interest if you'd like to take part and to come along. And then if you're not able to make it in person, you can always join online. So again, I'll put the link for that in the chat. I'll put lots of links in and kind of explain what they're all for in a moment. But the fourth event that's part of the series is around inclusive events. So that's again going to be an online webinar, a little bit like this one. And this is because kind of whilst building communities of women is really important, we also recognise the need to kind of integrate women into wider mountain biking culture. And one way of doing this is through events and racing. But mountain biking events are lagging behind other sports in terms of their approach to inclusivity. And so we want to hold a webinar on the 26th of June, and we want to hear about people's experiences and examples of best practice. And then we're going to hold a follow-up workshop with event organisers, which we plan to host in North Wales, where we will kind of hopefully come up with recommendations and guidelines for best practice to help event organisers run more inclusive events. Then the fifth area is around representation and storytelling. So increasing media representation of women in mountain biking helps to show kind of the diverse types of mountain biking are all valid. And so we're sharing stories. If anybody's following our social media pages, you'll be able to see that we're sharing kind of different types of mountain biking and stories of people supporting women in mountain biking across Wales. And so if you know of any stories or examples of good practice across Wales, please get in touch. We want to hear from you, and we want to be able to kind of map all of the examples of good practice that's taking place across Wales. But also as part of this area, we are holding a workshop in July where we're going to have a special guest who's going to be running that workshop. And so I'll be posting more details about this on our social media page. So do kind of follow that. And again, I'll put links to our socials in case you're not already following them in the chat as well. And then one more event that I also wanted to highlight is the Forest of Dean Women's Takeover, which is on the 21st of June. So coming up quite soon. And this is going to be kind of a variety of things. So it's going to be kind of discounted coaching sessions, social rides, timed laps for a bit of friendly competition, and maintenance workshops. So again, we've got a link to more details about that, which I'll post in the chat. There's one link, again, I'll label it so that you know, but there's one link where all of these events, apart from the Forest of Dean one, can all be found on the Baker Cymru webpage. So then if you just go to on that page, if you just select the tab that says view upcoming sessions, then you can see all 5 of them there and register for them there, or find details about how to register. But the focus of today's session is on demystifying ride leadership. So why is it so important to have women in ride leadership positions? Well, women in leadership at all levels, from kind of the boardroom through to community groups, is really important to help bring more women into mountain biking and to demonstrate to others that women can be in leadership positions and can lead. So increasing the number of women as leaders in mountain biking not only helps to grow participation, but also helps to kind of create more inclusive mountain biking culture. So by increasing the kind of presence of women as mentors, tutors, and trainers, means that more women will be encouraged to pursue these kind of types of leadership and coaching roles, which will then in turn kind of drive more grassroots participation and again kind of help to change the culture of mountain biking. So this is why it's so important to have women in leadership positions, which is why we wanted to kind of host this session today. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Fee and our guests today, who are Jo and Claire, who are going to share their experiences of kind of ride leadership and tell us kind of what to expect from taking part in a ride leadership course. So I'll hand over to you now, Fiona.
Thank you. Thanks, Maria. So I'm Fee Spotswood. I head up Project Fierce, and full disclosure, I'm also a mountain bike ride leader. and lead various groups. So this is a sort of passion project as well, and this discussion is really important to me. And I hear all the time from women particularly that they, when I say, oh, why don't you get your ride leader qualification, and they say, well, I don't think I'm good enough, or I'm not sure about it. I don't know why, I don't know what it's all about. And so having gone through it myself and having lots of people I know have done it, we thought, why don't we have this conversation and share our experiences. So we've invited two awesome, very experienced guests, purposefully because they have different qualifications and different types of experience with ride leadership. And hopefully we'll have a conversation, interrogate them about their experiences and what they think.
Wales,
let's just somebody needs to be muted.
Ride groups and getting more women into riding.
Just mute somebody.
Join in on things. So not often, but
sorry, apologies for muting you.
Pajamas,
Can we just make sure we're on mute, please? Thank you. Where was I? Yeah, so I'll introduce Claire and Jo in just a second, but just to let you know how the session's going to work, I've got a number of questions that I will pose and invite Claire and Jo to talk about their own experiences and thoughts, and then there'll be lots of time at the end as well for you guys to ask questions. I always think it's nice to write questions in the chat when they come to me, because otherwise I forget. So please do feel free to do that. And Maria and I will work as a double act, and she can check the chat as we go. So if there's a particular question that you have, just type it, and as well. And I think that will work really nicely. So Claire and Jo, do you want to unmute yourselves? And then very in brief, because there's going to be a lot of other follow-up questions, but can you just briefly tell us, who you are, what ride leader qualification you have, and perhaps a line or two about how you use it in your portfolio of jobs that you both have. Claire, let's go with you.
Yes, I'm Claire. I've got a British Cycling Level 3 mountain bike guide qualification, which is the highest one you can get. I've got a road cycling Level 1. I've got an off-road coaching qualification, and I'm a tutor, which is what they call people who train mountain bike guides at British Cycling. I have a full-time job as a marketing manager for a beer company, but then I also use my qualifications to train mountain bike guides, to lead rides, and to work commercially for entities like Ride High, MTB, Pedal Progression, Sisters in the World, and I put on events as well.
Thank you. And Jo?
Hi, I'm Jo, and I have got an NBC UK tutor qualification, so similar level to Claire, just with a different qualification, a different route in. And I have got, as Claire has, a hybrid of different jobs. So 3 days a week I work in women's health, so menopause and menstruation support, and then a couple of days a week I run pro ride mountain bike coaching and various other coaching-y stuff and things in the mountain bike world. And I think the qualifications, we use them for all sorts of things. That might be guiding, leading, it might be coaching, it's signing off other tutors, it's all sorts of different things. And we're particularly focused on trying to get women into the sport, because as Fee said, every single woman I've ever spoken to said, I can't possibly do that qualification, it's too hard, or I'm not good enough, or I don't know how to fix a bike, or whatever. So that's what we're really focusing on right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so my first question is to go back and just ask you both to reflect on how you got into mountain biking, and really to sort of think about how you got into mountain biking, and then why you became motivated to become a ride leader, and a tutor in your cases as well. So what was the connection between I love mountain biking to I want to lead other people on the trails? Let's go with do you want to go
first again?
Yeah, well, let's just do that. Let's go with the same order.
So I started I say off-road cycling rather than mountain biking when lockdown hit, because I used to play and coach roller derby and ramp skating, and I used to go across Europe doing that. So then suddenly there was like 8 hours a week where I was used to hitting people really, really fast, and I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. And I was like, what am I going to do? Mountain bikes seemed like too far of a commitment to off-road. Road cycling sounded way too boring. Knew I wanted to do something in nature where you got to go really fast. So I got a gravel bike, fell in love with it, like hard, ended up going to the Cairngorms on my own, like quite quickly. Fell in love with planning routes, found people to ride with, but none of them were women. And that quickly led to me wanting to find more women to ride with, because I was like, I love it. I can't be the only one. So I started organising women's rides, helped set up a gravel riding group, and then was like, I'm going to organise women's rides because they're out there. I made lots of connections with other women doing stuff in off-road cycling, going to events like the Sisters in the Wild First Summer Gathering. And actually, I got my first ride leader qualification. Oh no, I got my road leader, but we'll ignore that because it's boring. But I got my level 2 mountain bike guiding with the New Forest Off-Road Club. So they'd been fundraising to get their ride leaders signed off, and then invited me and Em Whitaker, who set up Rate Good Bike Club, who we've now stolen to Bristol. We went along with them and did our level 2 with Pedal MTB up in Cody Brennan, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Started doing bits with Sisters in the Wild off the back of it, and me and Em decided we were going to do our level 3. So a year later we did that. With Pedal MTB again, because we'd heard lots of stories about lots of different places, and our experience with them was amazing. And that led to doing more leading, guiding, route planning, because the map reading bit is like great, way more fun than you think it will be. And then, yeah, I think a year ago, Pedal MTB got in touch, and they've always been like super open about like wanting to do better with their language or include more people, and they get to help like change the structure of British cycling qualifications. And they asked like, would you mind, like, would you consider being a tutor? Like, we want to train you up to train more mountain bike guides, which was just like a mad compliment because I really rate them. And yeah, I think like other people gave me the confidence that I could do it. I guess I was really lucky with those people just being like, hey, we like what you're doing, like do this. And that made me think like, oh, I can. But I think finding off-road cycling and being independent in the middle of nowhere on my own like had such a profound effect on me, that really was, that's why I love doing this, because I get to like quite often be paid to be there and facilitate those moments for other women, which is just like magic, because it was so magic for me, and I get tingly thinking and talking about it now. But it's like now I can like professionally get people to that moment like faster than they would on their own. And I think that's probably the guiding principle of like a lot of the different things I do in cycling.
Wow, I couldn't have put it better myself. I would say this to Claire, but I've been mountain biking a very, very long time, and it took me probably 20 years to get to the point that Claire did in about 18 months or maybe 18 minutes. I'm not sure. It's so impressive. Joe, what about you? Tell us a bit about your background in mountain biking and how and your motivations as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I remember my very first yellow BMX bike when I was about 2, and I always loved being like on the allotment and outside. I just love being outdoors, and I've always swum outdoors, open water swimming, all that kind of stuff. Just love being outdoors, very much like Claire. Did a bit of road biking as well with my dad, all that kind of stuff. And then got together with someone who mountain biked when I was in my 20s, and went and tried that. I thought, oh, this is quite good actually. It's outdoors, it's adventurous. I can get lost. I can read a map. I can do all this cool stuff. I can have cake at the end if I need it. So it just seemed like the perfect hobby. And then about 10 or 12 years ago, I got together with my husband, who is professional downhill mountain biker and runs a race team. And he got me into downhill a bit. I wouldn't say I'm all that good, but I should say I'm all that good, Fee, actually, shouldn't I? I should say that. I shouldn't rate myself.
Own it.
I love a bit of downhill, love a bit of dirt jumps in the last couple of years, got into that stuff. So probably going to kill myself at some point, but love that adrenaline, but also love that community feel. So Fee and I met through an organisation called This Mum Runs, where I was COO. And that was all about community building for women, getting them back into activity in a safe space, in that place where they can do their thing at their level with no judgment at all. And I loved that. And I think that's carried on through my life now. And that's what really made me think about becoming a ride leader and a tutor and all that kind of stuff, is because exactly what Claire says, there's something magic about women supporting other women to do things that feel outside their comfort zone, that feel adventurous, that feel like you can achieve them suddenly, whereas we don't think we can achieve them before. And I think, having been in leadership roles in business for years and years and years, I only got my ride leader qualifications over the last couple of years, because I was so scared to do something in this world, because it was so male dominated and so scary and so whatever, that even though I've been a COO, it felt mad to even think about being a ride leader. So I can totally understand people's fears about that. So that's what got me into it in a potted way.
Yeah. We were saying before everyone joined the call tonight that I was recently having a conversation with somebody we know who is a really experienced sort of curator of groups, but she doesn't have a ride leader qualification. She's a fantastic mountain biker, and she's really experienced at bringing women together to go for rides in a social capacity. And yet was nervous and talking to me saying, oh, I'm really interested in ride leader qualifications but it feels really scary. And mountain biking is male dominated, we know that, and we're naturally on our back foot. I mean, I have to say, when I did my ride leader qualification, it was all men in the group. I didn't find it intimidating. It was lovely. I did it with Windy up at Forest of Dean, and it was a really lovely experience. But I can see why it might feel intimidating, for sure. And I guess it begs the question, why do we need a qualification? Why can't you just bring your mates out and take your mates out for a ride? So can you answer this specific question before we move on, both of you? What is it that ride leader qualification does or enables you to do or gives you that you couldn't do anyway?
It's a really good question, and I think it's a multitude of different things, Claire. I don't know what you think, but it gives me confidence that I know what I'm doing. It gives me those safety procedures, boring as some of them are. I know what I'm doing now, and I know exactly how to prepare. And I think it also opens your eyes a little bit to how people learn differently, and how women particularly learn differently, actually, to men. And quite a lot of the ride leader qualifications are aimed very much at men. So I think that it gave me that confidence. So you can go out and you can lead rides without it, but you won't be insured, you won't have had the safety stuff, you probably won't have the confidence that you've tried it out in a safe space. So that's what it gave me anyway.
Yeah, same. Like it's the confidence to say that actually, like, this piece of paper and this effort I put in says that I can do this. But also I've got a professional qualification in insurance, so you can pay me to do it as well, which I think is really important, because there are so many grassroots groups and people are doing a lot of stuff for free. That I think, like, it's important to talk about the money side of it as well, and to not be shy about charging for your time.
Good point.
Yeah, really good point. And I have to say, I learned loads. I mean, I learned loads and loads and loads. Having been, leading groups informally for decades, I was astonished by how much I learned. So moving on to that, let's talk about the qualifications specifically. Now, you've got different qualifications. You've gone through different routes, and it's important to say that there are different ways of getting your ride leader qualification, and we call it ride leader, but actually there's different sets of language as well. There's guiding and coaching and other things as well, which I'm sure you will talk about. So starting with Claire then, and perhaps, do you want to give an overview, Claire, because you are a British cycling tutor? Can you just talk about the different types of ride leader qualification? This was not a question on your list. I'm really sorry about this, but it's really important. Sorry, I promised I wouldn't go off the sheet. But please, can you just tell everybody what the different levels are, roughly? We can post links in there, but there are different levels. You don't have to. Claire's got level 3. You don't have to get level 3. There are alternatives out there.
Yeah. and the remits are very broad, but I suppose the thing that really differentiates them is the remit when you come out the other side of your training. So like what and where can you guide, basically. So it's called Leadership with British Cycling. They're actually just changing the names of all the courses at the moment. So something that could be called Level 1, which has also been called Fundamentals, which will now be called Trail Leader, I think. They're all the same thing. But that is a weekend course, and at the end of that weekend you have your qualification, and you're able to guide on anything that you have pre-ridden and is, I think it's like within 5 kilometers of a road or terrain that an ambulance can get to. So that counts. Like fire roads with locked gates still count because they can get access to them and they can drive a vehicle on it. So actually the remit is huge on fundamentals. It's not until you get out into the Brecon Beacons or something that then you have to start thinking about it. So yeah, there's that. Then level 2, that's a weekend of training. You go away, you hone your skills, and then you come back for a weekend of assessment. So all the same sort of thing, but it starts to get more in depth. You're like working with mountain biking trails. So like, how you lead a group on like a wide open fire road is going to be quite different to how you lead them on a trail, because you're going to have really limited vision. There's going to be more technical. And at the end of that, like you'll know more about like how to keep people happy and healthy, like what sort of things would start to present on a ride that you might want to keep an eye on. The trailside repairs get a bit more in depth. That's something that freaks people out. Is a trailside repair, like it's get someone home. It's not beautiful, perfectly dialed in gears that a mechanic would do. It's sponsored by gaffer tape and zip ties most of the time. It's fine. I'm excellent at trailside repairs. I'm a horrible mechanic, but that's fine because I don't care about mechanics. It's boring. So yeah, you get all of this information and you get to play with maps. You get to guide from a map, so you're prepared should all the technology break, but it's really fun. And then go away, come back, assessment weekend. You're taking it in turns to guide each other around. And an important thing to note is assessment always makes you think someone's looking for what you're doing wrong, but they're not. They're looking for all the reasons to pass you. If you're with a really good training provider, that's the way they should be approaching it. It's like, how do you coach someone to become this great ride leader, not how do we tell you where you're going wrong. And then level 3 is a step up again. So you're learning even more about like reading mountain weather charts. Your navigation's getting more complicated. Like if you're somewhere featureless where it's really hard to tell where you are on the trail, guaranteed that's where they want the grid reference. But it's actually fun. It's like a game. And the trailside repairs get a bit more in depth as well. But yeah, at the end of level 3, your remit is you can guide anyone anywhere if you think it's safe. So it just becomes more about like you've now been qualified to assess if something is safe or not, rather than being given a set of rules to exist within. But yeah, I mean, level 2, like you can pretty much guide anywhere on that. Level 1, still a massive remit. You just need to have pre-ridden the thing that you're riding on. Level 2 and 3, you can have the route and you can guide on it without having ridden it before, which I very rarely do, to be fair.
Jo, is that massively different to your route?
No, absolutely not. No, we've got a 1, 2 and 3. The first one's called Trail Leader. Second one's Technical Trail Leader, so slightly harder terrain, distance away from roads, etc. Exactly the same. 3 is Coach. And I think it's the NBC UK ones allow you to coach within your own ability of riding. So if you can't ride downhill black trails, don't go and coach on downhill black trails. It's commonsensical, isn't it, in the end of it? But yeah, like Claire said, it's really good fun. It fills you with that confidence. And the assessment absolutely is that. What are you doing brilliantly? Let's pull that part out and let's give you some guidance on the bits that you're not quite so sure on. Yeah, really good fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, I certainly enjoyed mine. So the next question is, how did you find the training process? Were there any parts that surprised or challenged you? And, for me, as you said, Claire, I think people get very freaked out by the trailside mechanic bit, and I did, but I tell you, I absolutely loved it. It was so empowering. And when they threw me out the side of the trail, my level 2 assessment, they gave me a chain to take apart and fix during lunch. I was looking forward to that because I've been practicing it so much, and I really enjoyed it. So what about you guys? What did you find, what did you enjoy, or what worried you about the training process? What surprised you or challenged you? What did
I
you
was
like
similar
most?
to you, Fee. Yeah, I think the bit I liked most was the leadership side of it, is looking at people, understanding what their abilities are, making sure they're safe, making sure they're comfortable, it's accessible for them, the way you're doing things, and just getting them to have as much fun as possible on a bike.
Yeah.
Because that's the aim at the end of the day. The trailside mechanics bit is my worst bit, but anyone can get by. As Claire said, as long as you've got a bit of gaffer and a cable tie and you've got some people around you and we're all having a go, anyone can get by on that at all. If you've never done trailside repairs at all, you can learn that bit and get through it quite easily. So yeah, I would say it's that was my best bit, was the leadership side of it.
Amazing. What about you, Claire?
Yeah, I think trailside repairs was my least favorite bit. Just because I felt so unconfident about it beforehand, and actually I know if someone's watching me do something, then I'm just like, whoa. So like we did the chain thing, and I was just like, just stop looking at me, Ed. Stop looking at me, and then I can do it. And he's like, yeah, but I need to watch, don't I? And I was like, I know, but could you just not? And like I'll just be like, da. And I did something horribly wrong. Oh, it was just like fluffing the chain, and then just had like a really horrible meltdown on my level 2 assessment. And then I had this moment, it's very unlike me, where I was just like, sod it, I've messed it all up. And it's like, everyone, you can go down this trail. And Ed just looked at me and was like, I know that's not safe. And it's like, this has all gone wrong anyway. I failed. And then he was like, but we've still got time. You can pull this back. And then, yeah, just basically knew that, like, basically I was going to have to drive 4 hours back to Bristol if I didn't pull it back again. And throwing it all down the pan just because of a chain that annoyed me probably wasn't worth it. So I had a little word with myself. And I had put myself into a corner because then he had to add an extra bit onto the ride that we'd never ridden before. So then I had to guide everyone completely blind on a bit of the route that we'd never done before. But I was like the leading bit is the easy bit. Like that's the bit where you chat to people and have a nice time and just make sure you're in the right place. So like told myself all of that, and then it's like I smashed it out of the park. Like I did some exceptional guiding. I'm now his story to make people feel good when they're having a bad day. But yeah, like totally pulled it back. And then we went back and did the trailside repairs. And I was like, well, I've done this loads at home. So I'd say that was probably like the worst bit, was just like having that little meltdown. And then just being like, I do this all the time. Like I was leading rides before that. And that's like the easy bit for me. So like, yeah, that was definitely the worst.
I think
yeah.
I think I found that there's lots of different aspects to it, and there's the trailside repairs, there's the leadership and group cohesion and understanding where you should be and how to assess how everyone's doing. And then there's the navigation, I suppose, are the main parts of it, and then the kit. But those are the main sections, and different people are going to find different parts of that easy or hard. And I built things up in my head. I wasn't worried at all about the navigation. I'd done so much navigation in my past as an adventure racer, and I totally messed up the navigation because in adventure racing, you're moving fast. And so you look at the map, you know where you are, and you think, right, I'll put the map away because I'll just keep going on this trail until I hit a junction. And of course, in the assessment, he said, right, we're going to stop here, and I want you to tell me where we are to 100 meters. And I was like, well, I don't know. We're on this trail somewhere, and at some point, we're going to hit this junction. And he's like, that's not good enough, because if you've got to get emergency services here, we need to know exactly where you are. It's like, good point. So I had to recalibrate my expectations about navigation. And actually the trailside repairs was fine because I prepped it, and I've got lots of lovely friends who are bike mechanics, and they came round to my house and we took bikes apart and they taught me how to do it, and it was absolutely fine. So there's different aspects to the training, I think. And you go in, and they provide you with a lovely book, a curriculum that you can go through, and you just focus on the bits that you want to. Did you have to do a logbook, Joe and Claire, for your own rides?
Yeah, and I found that really useful actually.
Yeah.
Although someone says, "Oh, do a logbook," you think, "Oh God, I'm going to get my clipboard out. It's going to be horrendous." It was really useful to see how it gave me confidence actually to see how much riding I did do, and it made me really think about the rides that I might want to do to help me prep a bit more. So yeah, the logbook was really good actually. Still keep it a bit now because I am that square person.
Claire, what about you? Did you keep logbooks?
Yeah, kept logbooks and used Strava a lot. So Strava's really handy because you've got private notes section. So then, you know, you've got like all of the stats of the ride, you've got the weather, Strava sorts all that for you. And then I use private notes to then add in like what went well, what didn't, did I have any mechanicals, how did I resolve them? So it can sound quite arduous to like add this other thing in, especially if like you're doing it over winter and you're cleaning your bike and stuff anyway. But for a lot of that stuff, there's always like a good hack. But yeah, private notes on Strava is a really great way to keep an accurate logbook without having to do too much of the note taking.
And I didn't use Strava for mine, but I do recall when I went to the assessment, he asked me for my Strava link. So you can actually just give them the link. I wrote mine all out by hand because I was a bit pre-digital, but you can. It's pretty simple. And actually, there are criteria for what rides you need to do, and it's not overwhelming. It's not like you need to be you know, for level 3, it's harder, and you have to have done a certain number of rides in kind of wilderness places and in different places. But for the level 1 or equivalent and level 2 or equivalent, I seem to remember it wasn't too onerous. There was sort of, I think there were 4-hour rides you had to have done throughout a whole year, and then some other criteria. So it's not actually as onerous as you think. And certainly on my course, there were people who really weren't riding that much, and wanted the qualification for really specific reasons to lead specific groups of people. And they didn't need to be the world's best mountain biker. They just needed to go through this series of, you know, this series of training.
Yeah, we get scout leaders and things like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claire, go on.
I was going to say, like, you know, being a good leader, like such a small part of it is like how you ride a bike.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can take people out who are like far more accomplished riders than you, and they could make really horrible ride leaders. You know, the skills that you need to make a ride really good for a group of people like are so much like more important than how you ride a bike. And I think that's like one big thing that holds people back from signing up to the courses. But actually, you're going to learn so much other stuff that's going to level up your riding and your adventures, as well as like how to manage a group of people.
And dare I say it, I'm going to say it, yeah, I am, is that actually I think a lot of skills that women possess make them very good ride leaders. Our approach to things, our empathy, our understanding for others, all of that, and not leaving people behind, all that good stuff sets us up well. And yes, I did say that out loud, sorry.
Yeah. It's fine. It's not being recorded. Oh no, it is. No, it's fine.
It is.
I'll quote you on it. Okay, excellent. So I'm sure in fact, should we pause there for questions? Because the next section I'm just looking at my crib sheet, and the next section of questions are about your experience after you qualified leading rides, and what that's been like. So I wonder if now's a good point to pause for any questions about the actual qualification. And you know what you went through and what it's like. Is there any points of clarification that people would like, either by unmuting and shouting at us or by just posting something in the chat? Okay, perfect.
Well, there's some typing happening in the chat.
Oh, is there? Okay. Feel free to, if something comes to you later, that's absolutely fine as well. What kind of riding skills did you need for the level 2, level 3? Okay.
So it's interesting in MBC UK actually that you coach or you guide to your own ability. So actually, if you could only ride to blue level trails and you could demonstrate that at level 3 that you were blue level trails, you could absolutely guide on those, and you could probably get your level 2 qualification. Level 3, you'd need to be above that, but actually it's not as, you're within your own remit of riding ability in the qualifications. You don't ride outside of it. But level 3, it's longer rides, and it's slightly more technical, and it's a little bit more arduous, but it's not, I think people perceive it's like hardcore downhill trails and you're doing 9 hours out in the Brecon Beacons and whatever else, and it's absolutely not that. And I don't know about British cycling, but I can't imagine it's any different, Claire.
So there is so for fundamentals, the level 1, that's like, it's a really great gravel cycling qualification as well. There's nothing really that technical. You just need to be comfortable riding a bike off-road. Level 2, then there is some slightly more technical riding. So there's parts of the remit where like things can't be higher than hub height, and so you will start having like things that are more of a little drop, or like something, I suppose. I'm reluctant to use blue, red and black because it's so different depending on where you're riding, but there will definitely be, I'd say you'd want to be on a mountain bike for level 2, because you will be on terrain that will require it. And then for level 3, you'd want to be on a full suspension mountain bike, because you will be on much jankier terrain that will require it. So yeah, and the technical, it isn't really technical, but I think it's important to say that there is like a ramp up as it moves up. But yeah,
cool, thank you. Okay, Grace, do my level 2 course this weekend. Any last minute tips?
Enjoy it, go with an open mind and embrace it. Like, just take what you'd normally wear, take the food you'd normally eat, all that kind. Don't do anything wild and different. Do the stuff that you do and just do it really well and feel prepared. And
that's an amazing piece of advice, because for my level 2, I decided that was the moment to use a Garmin for the first ever time. And for anyone who knows me, I'm a rubbish at technology. I'd done, decades of adventure racing with a paper map, because we weren't allowed to use Garmin. And then I thought, no, we've got this Garmin, I'm going to use it. Absolute disaster. Chucked it out, practically threw it in a hedge and got the map out halfway round, because I just didn't know how to do it. So definitely stick to what you know. That would be that'd be my advice. Claire, have you got anything to add?
If you are using a bike computer, press lap at every junction. You're not allowed to use it for your routing if it's British cycling, but you are allowed to use it to measure distance. And if you press lap at every junction and you go wrong in your map reading, then you know that you only went wrong 2 kilometers ago, which makes problem solving way easier. And remember that their job is that they want to pass you. So anytime you get like flustered or annoyed or get inside your head, just think like, actually, this person, they're just looking to pass me.
Yeah,
they're not looking to tell you not to pass.
And they're probably more nervous than you, is what I say. I don't know how you feel when you tutor, Claire, but I feel more nervous than them, because you just want them to have an amazing time and get all the learning from it. So think of them being more nervous than you as well, and maybe help them. Bless them.
Joanne has asked, do you think this could translate to riding in a different country, also for replicating the training process outside the UK? I'm going to turn to Joe for this, because
Yeah, I think it could actually. So with the NBC UK qualification level 3, you can go and coach internationally. You obviously have to have the permissions and the insurance internationally. You can't just go and do it on the British insurance. So yes, I think it could. I think when you get into big alpine adventures, people who've done that know it's very, very different to UK riding, because of the altitude, because of the different weather patterns, all that kind of stuff. So yes, I think it could, but I think you'd want a upskill with a local guiding company or a riding company there to really prepare yourself, because things like alpine riding are just so very different. But yes, I think it's a good baseline for it. It's a good foundation for it, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think the British cycling qualification is. I don't think it applies overseas. Am I right, Claire? It's just
I guide abroad, but with so It's the same with coaching as well. Like if I was doing it independently, it would be different, but I work for a company that has a separate insurance. So I'm covered by their insurance, but they're happy to insure me and cover me in their risk assessment because I have my qualification. So if I didn't
Okay.
have a qualification, that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, so you can absolutely use it to get work abroad.
Okay. And another question, do you do e-learning alongside the level 1 qualification?
Yes. For
Yeah.
British.
A little bit. There's one
Yeah.
short bit, isn't there?
It's really boring. Sorry. But you just get it over and done with and then come do the fun weekend.
Yeah.
That's the bit. It's a nice bit of. It's boring, but it's a good bit of prep because it gets you to see a little bit of what the syllabus is going to be like and a bit of what you're going to do. It's almost like a light touch way in, isn't it, for some of it?
The one bit of e-learning that I would say is amazing with British Cycling though, and technology is not their forte, but the safeguarding, and because it's incredibly tailored to cycling, because obviously they've got all the performance coaching and everything as well. So understanding about safeguarding children and vulnerable people, like they've refined it so much in the time since I did my road cycling qualification to now. I've just redone it before like the tutor conference. But it is really tailored to the situation that you'll be working in, and it's a really, really good course.
Yeah. I would definitely second that. So I run a children's mountain bike club here in Bristol, and we put through a lot of our parent volunteers through fundamentals, as was Claire trained the last 2, I think, that went through, but we've got 10 leaders now, and we insist they do the British cycling safeguarding training every year, and it is really, that is genuinely really, really good. And actually we've had no complaints about the online e-learning being boring. I think everyone really enjoyed it. So yeah, just you. Okay, one more question then. What type or level of trail does the level 1 or fundamentals allow you to lead on? From Lindsay.
So for NBC UK, the wording they use, I've just had a quick look at it. The wording they use, it allows you to lead and coach on cycle permitted areas or unmarked cycle trails with a valid risk assessment on low to moderate terrain. So a lot of what the leadership sessions do and talk about is what is low to moderate for you? What's low to moderate in this environment? What's safe? So it's not going to be massively technical. It's not going to be hugely far away, as Claire said, from roads, etc. But to define it by a trail level or whatever else, as Claire says, is a difficult thing to do, I think. I don't know, Claire, if there's anything specific in BC.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things in BC that like can help you like with your grading. So obviously there's the distance thing for like where an ambulance can get to. Nothing can be higher than hub height on any bike like wheel on your ride. So if you're riding with kids, obviously smaller wheels, hubs are closer to the ground, because the drop is going to feel bigger to them than it will to you on your bike. On the fundamentals, I find this so good. One of the things is it must be rideable seated at walking speed. So you'll be comfortable riding something and you'll just swoop around and you realize that you'd be out of your saddle almost all the time when things get bumpy underneath. If you try and ride something that you're really comfortable with, that's a bit lumpy and bumpy, seated at walking speed, it completely changes it, and it suddenly puts you in like the shoes of maybe a lesser experienced rider on one of your rides, and it can make you experience the trail the way they will. So that is one of the qualifiers they put on for the fundamentals. So you need to be able to ride it seated comfortably at walking pace.
Yeah.
And it's really nice when you have discussions of like, is this in remit? Is this out of remit? And it's like, well, should we do that? And it's really interesting seeing people who've just like swooped down something, then approach the edge of something and know they can't take their bum off the saddle. And it's like, yeah, let's have a chat about whether this is in remit.
Yeah. And we have a mix of level 2 and level 1 leaders in the kids club, and we have to reiterate that actually there are slightly different. Our risk assessment is that they lead to their qualification, and so that is actually slightly different for each of them. So not hugely, but there are certain things. Okay, feel free to add more questions as we go through the next sort of 10 minutes or so. But I want to move on to life after you were qualified. So leading rides. You've alluded to this a little bit already, you know, in your motivations for getting a qualification. But I want to know, and I think everyone wants to know, you know, what was it like, you know, your first ride? Can you remember your first led ride with your certificate? Imaginary certificate, clutching it with your sweaty hands with your certificate, and you, of course, your 2-day outdoor first aid as well, which you need to make your qualification valid, as it were. What was your first ride like after you qualified?
Mine was with a group of women only. So we ran a weekend called a Find Your Flow weekend. So it's finding your flow on the bike and in life. So it's a bit of life skills coaching and a bit of bike coaching. So it's a real mix of different people on there, different abilities. And I was nervous, and I co-delivered, actually. I co-coached it with somebody, co-led it with somebody. And I was unbelievably nervous, even though I'd been leading people on bikes for years and years, like Claire had. I was like, oh my God, now I've got the paper, the pressure's on. But actually, it was just magical. And the first smile you get from someone, or the first time someone says, I've never tried that before, and I wouldn't have done it without this other group of women here, or without a female coach, that's when you know you've made the right choice of qualification, for sure. And it was a really mixed group. So it was, I know we think about ability levels, that can be quite hard to tailor sometimes. So it's quite a challenging set of people, actually. But what a way to start in an official capacity, just to have a really challenging one, because you're not going to get that same level of challenge again. So it all felt easier after that. But yeah, I was buzzing. I literally couldn't stop smiling for about 3 weeks afterwards. It was ridiculous. The best drugs ever.
Yeah, amazing. Claire, what about you?
Yeah, it's probably worth reiterating. I hadn't been riding for years and years, and I didn't have a very outdoorsy life. I didn't start exercising really until I was in my 30s, and I didn't start cycling until I was 30, nearly 36. And I'd been riding for 2 years when I got my first qualification. So loads of you are probably more au fait with it than I was when I did mine. I think my first ride, I was already leading women's rides and rides around Bristol. So it's probably the first one where I was like, was Sisters in the Wild, going back as a paid coach, paid guide. And I think it was probably the Scotland one. So it was a gravel camp in the Cairngorms. Went and rode the routes with my friend Karen, who was also guiding. And then, yeah, got paid cash money to go and take women out on these amazing trails in the Cairngorms, but even better, got to take them for their first ever experience of bikepacking and wild camping. It was just like a real pinch me moment where it's just like, oh my God, like, I mean, I love doing this anyway, but I can't believe I get to like do this, call it work, and like see these looks on everyone's faces. It was amazing.
Oh, I've got tingles. I've got tingles. It's lovely. Amazing. So let's go back to that point you made, Jo, about having a group with different abilities. I mean, Claire and I often co-lead rides, right? So we're confronted by, we don't know who's turning up. We run a group called Women Ride Bristol, which is, you know, clues in the name, Women Ride Bristol. And we don't know who's going to turn up. Sally down there often turns up. We get Sally's super experienced mountain biker. We sometimes get people, we actually have had women turn up in wellies on completely rigid gravel bikes. We don't know who's coming. We have no idea. We don't know how many. It's so it's not officially led in the sense that we're not doing it to the British cycling ratios. We are curating this ride, but essentially they're looking to us to organise it. And it's really nerve-wracking. It's like, how many groups do we need? How are we going to run this? How are we going to pitch it? What tone do we need? There's a lot going on. So can you tell us a little bit about how you manage a group with massively different skills, abilities, perhaps objectives as well? Because that's quite a tough thing, and that we're going to face that almost every time.
Yeah, Claire, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very chill if it's not. So if it's a Women Ride Bristol ride, so chill. I'm not getting paid. You're not using my insurance. Like, I'm absolved of responsibility, essentially. But I also know that no one's paying any money and everyone's just super happy to have a nice time. And actually, I think a lot of the pressure ends up being pressure that we put on ourselves, but actually just facilitating a place where people get to ride their bikes for free and meet other people actually just ticks all their boxes, which is great. But then I think more when it's like something where you've been quite specific or you've taken people's money, and then you've got to like make this thing happen, but in a way where it caters for everyone who turned up. Then I think, you know, you learn loads of great stuff on the qualification to help you do that. Like, so one thing is like you might always think that you lead a ride from the front, but actually loads of the time that's like a rubbish place to lead from, because everyone's just going to see your butt and the back of your head, and you're not really going to help create a vibe with that. So it's like getting comfortable with being in the middle or at the back. And you know, if someone is like super speedy or really strong, or maybe you can tell they're getting a bit bored, then it's like, right, how can I give them something to do that's going to like knacker them out or make them feel like they're being engaged? Maybe I'm going to put them at the front, or be like, hey, I think there's a gate further ahead, actually, would you mind going and checking and coming back again? Or yeah, I'm really good at backhanded compliments and massaging egos of men who are annoying me in a way that like knocks them down a peg or two on a ride. That's a really great skill to learn too. But there's lots of different ways, but I think you just get used to it the more you deal with different people. Yeah, there's such a wide range of abilities and experience levels, especially on a Sisters in the Wild trip. But you just get really used to being able to like flex where you are in a group and knowing like how to pull everyone together. My catch-all situation from when a group is really split apart is, right, everyone ride at your own pace, but when there is an obvious change, I want you to stop. And so that obvious change can be weather, terrain, a junction. But you know, I know what's coming up. I know how far ahead they're actually going to get. But like it's finding ways in which you feel comfortable on the route that you're guiding on to let people like flex in the way you want them to, and give them the ride that they want.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Jo, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. Totally echo what Claire said. I think what I quite often do at the start of a ride is set a bit of expectations. So say, actually, we're going to have lots of different abilities on this ride. We're all going to support each other. No one's going to get left behind. Let's all decide exactly what you said, some rules around that, rules of engagement about when we're going to stop, when we're not. So setting it right at the start that everybody's going to be on a different level and you've all got strengths in the group that are going to help each other kind of helps people, because when it's unsaid, it's an elephant in the room, isn't it? And people feel more nervous. So yeah, definitely right at the start talking about it, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One thing that I learned from the New Forest Off-Road Club as well, which is really important in mountain biking and not always possible, but try and include double track in your rides, because it gives people an opportunity to ride next to each other and have a conversation. So I now, if I'm thinking about a route for a group of women, particularly women who don't know each other, I'll make sure that I might do an extra, they might not know where they are, so it doesn't make any difference, but I'll do like an extra bit that they probably don't need to do, but just so to add in some double track or some fire roads so that people can ride next to each other and chat. And I find that that kind of lubricates the conversation and makes people feel that they can speak up if they're feeling it's too slow, too fast, not quite what they were expecting, or they're out of their comfort zone and they've kind of connected with other people. And often, and you know, we feel like got to ride single track, that's what we do, right? That's what we do in mountain biking. But actually no, sometimes it's good to force in some double track to get that conversation going. So I learned that from New Forest Off-Road Club, because that's all they have there.
I've just done that with a bike packing trip, because
Yeah.
it's a bunch of people that have never met each other before. There's like a, not guided, it's for my birthday. But I don't want to like have to look after them making these relationships. It's my birthday, they should be thinking about me. So I've actually binned off a really savage beginning to our bike packing trip and made it really cruisy so they can all get to know each other, and then they become a unit. So that then the unit can work together moving forward. But it's a really good one for rides in general. It's like, how do you bond everyone together at the beginning so that then they can be a gang for the rest of the ride.
Yeah, and I do notice that when you set off, there's often this sort of weird silence, and I'm one of those people that talks to fill the gap, and I get really nervous, and I was like, I want to make sure everyone's having a nice time. And then something will happen. Something always happens. There'll be a slip chain, there'll be or a panic about something being dropped, or there'll be something will happen, and the moment something goes wrong, everyone's fine. They all, women particularly, they muck in, they get stuck in, they help each other. It kind of breaks the ice, and everyone, I'm like, please make something go wrong on this ride so that everyone can start talking to each other. Not something big, just something small. so that's always nice as well. Okay, so moving towards the end of our conversation before we open it up to the floor, as it were, just a final couple of questions. So I'm interested. I mean, lots we can learn about from your experience about how you convene rides, what you do on them, how you set that tone, how you bring women together. But what I'm actually going to ask is how you use your qualification to encourage more women into mountain biking, because I know you both do it enormously and inspiringly so, and that's for me one of the most magical things about having that ride leader qualification. It gives you a kind of flag that you can wave and to use to get people to get more women into mountain biking. So can you just give us a little bit of a overview of how you've used that qualification to encourage more women and marginalized genders into mountain biking?
For sure. So I think talking about it to everybody, that this is what we do, and like just chatting about it, it comes up in conversation every single time, doesn't it? Yeah, about it. I think putting on, for us as an organisation, we put on women's specific events or non-male specific events, as it were. We'll do things for free for women, because I think what we found, Fee, you know this from your research, women will often not invest in themselves financially to do things, but they'll come and try something new for free because it feels like they're not spending money they might spend on kids or partners or other things on themselves. So we'll often run tasters for free, that sort of thing, to encourage people in a bit more. So yeah, I think it's making it really accessible for everybody by listening to what they want. So I'll talk to people who've never ridden before, who might want to access riding, and hear what the barriers are for them and try and overcome them in the right way for them. So I think our biggest thing is listening to other people, and that will encourage them to come, because it's, I mean, if we ride already, don't we? And we might want to get better or do something more adventurous, but the ones that don't ride at all, they're the magic gold, because you want them to have the fun that we have, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think listening to them and understanding what their challenges are so we can overcome them is probably my key thing that I do as a ride leader, for sure.
Definitely. Claire, what about you?
That's a really hard question to answer.
Well, don't feel obliged. I mean,
yeah, I suppose like the one good thing about the qualification is it's a really easy defined thing for me to talk about. Whereas like I can be like, oh, I put on rides and I have this event and I like riding with women, and it all feels really unquantifiable, and I'm actually having a bit of a crisis about it at the moment. Because I'm always like, I should be doing more, and I'm not always at the right Bristol rides, and it's just like, so the qualifications are great because it's really quantifiable. And I think like using them as much as I can in all situations. So like do a bit of coaching, which is a separate qualification with British Cycling, with pedal progression with school groups. And I actually think it's really important for teenage boys to see a woman in that position in something like mountain biking, and the same with adult groups as well, like having a woman in that position of authority on a mountain bike ride. I think that's important for them to see as well, because it's not just about getting more women to ride, it's about changing like the wider culture that actually women sometimes find uncomfortable to exist in. So for me, it's about being present in spaces that are open to all genders as well. And that's something I do with the events and things that I orchestrate as well, is like making sure. So for the Bristol Rally, for example, it's a 3-day bikepacking rally, but 50% of the tickets are ring fenced for women and marginalised genders. But I think it's important that men are there as well. So because yeah, a lot of them need their minds changing because they're wrong. So we have to do that as well.
yeah, and for me, adding to that, I think I apart from the kids club, most of the leading I do is not official, in the sense that, you know, and it's important to pick up on this because we alluded to it earlier. You know, with a ride leader qualification, you are insured and responsible for leading a particular number of people, which is 8. It is for British cycling. Is it the same? Yeah, same. But often the rides that I lead are a ramshackle group of people that I don't know how many there are. So I'm not responsible for them, and we try hard not to use the word lead. We say, hi, we're hosting, we're welcoming you, we are the people who are saying hi, and we're going to organize the groups. We're not leading. And even people approach you at the beginning of the ride, say, are you leading? You say, no, I'm not leading, but I'll introduce the ride and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing tonight. It's really hard not to use that language, but we're not actually leading because we're not, it's way over our ratios. But however, having a ride leader qualification just gives you those skills to actually know how to coordinate that group, what's important, who to watch out for. And I find this as well with people we've put through from the kids club, they often come and help out on our family rides where the parents are there and their parents are responsible for their children, but I can tell they've got that level of confidence and skill and ability to know how to curate, should we say, a group. So I always say to people, get your ride leader qualification anyway, even if you don't end up doing it officially, because it's such an amazing thing to have. It's such an amazing skill set to learn from.
That's a really good point. Yeah, you don't necessarily need to use it. It just gives you that confidence and that ability, doesn't it? And understanding of those different things. So yeah, I couldn't agree with that more, Fee. That's awesome recommendation.
And in fact, what's happened in Bristol is that we run lots of community rides as part of our trail association, and they are not led rides, but there are a number of us who stand up at the front and tell everyone what we're doing and which pub we're going to afterwards. And most of the people who curate those rides, host those rides, are women. And as Claire said, it's so important on the mixed rides, which are 95% men. It's so important then to have the women who are actually in those positions of informal authority, because it shows that we own this space.
And
Louise,
if the women are leading the slower groups, then I'll always kick up a fuss.
Yeah, we always try and make sure that there's a
woman at a higher level as well.
Yeah, and it's the same actually in the kids club. I always try and make sure we always have they are to the official ratio, but we have a ride leader and a parent volunteer, and we have a beginners, intermediate, and an advanced group, and I'll always make sure that is as much as possible a man and a woman in each group, rather than leaving the men to do the advanced group, because you've got these little boys who are growing up, and it's so important for them to see women owning that space and being leading the advanced group. Sorry, Louise, do jump in.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying. I'm just qualified to fundamentals level, so the remit for that is really quite strict. And before I was qualified, I used to meet a woman who'd done a bit of mountain biking and say, let's go out for a ride this evening or something like that. Now I understand that whenever I do that with somebody who's not a close friend, the qualification that I've got overrides everything and I become responsible. Is that not the case? That's what I've been told, that unless it's a very close friend and you're just going out with friends very informally, if it's somebody you've met on another ride and you go out with them and make an arrangement to go, they will see you as the leader. And because my qualification is not to a very advanced level, it's really limiting. And I get worried about going out with someone I don't know very well. I've got a bike shop, so people come in and I say, oh, let's go out for a ride this evening. And I don't really know them. They just come into the bike shop and I'm not leading them and I'm not being paid. I'm not being paid for any of it because I'm a volunteer. But my understanding is now, if you are qualified, then that qualification takes over everything you do virtually. How do you feel about what's your understanding of this?
I would say that's absolutely not the case. If you are using it in a professional capacity, that's different. But if you're going out for a ride with someone you've met, like you're not facilitating that ride as a qualified ride leader unless you've explicitly said that. And then you'd be filling out a risk assessment and finding out if that person has any additional needs or allergies, and doing all that other prep that you need to do for a formal ride. But yeah, that's absolutely not the case. yeah, it doesn't apply. It hasn't taken over your life now that you've got it. You've got this really like empowering piece of paper that means you can go and do this thing if you choose to do it, but it has no bearing on how you choose to ride your bike as an individual.
And it's quite often, insurance companies and things like that will quite often have very specific criteria for that. And Claire's totally right. In my experience as well, I totally agree with Claire. And quite often it's the exchanging of money that makes it a insurable, contractable, you're the ride leader type person, and you've specified it's an official ride and you've done all the risk assessments. So Louise, I think you're absolutely safe in taking friends or people you've met out on with them to ride with them socially. Don't think it's an issue at all.
That's interesting, because it kind of limits what I feel I can do, because I'm a volunteer anyway, so I don't get paid for any of it. I lead rides with Breeze mainly, and I might meet somebody on a Breeze ride and say, why don't we go out this evening and do something a bit more technical? That's the thing, that's out of remit of the qualification I've got. Otherwise it becomes really limiting, and I've felt more limited actually since I've become qualified, in where I go out with my partner and we go out with groups of very close friends. But now I find myself saying I'll organise a ride. I never say to people I'm going to lead a ride ever, because that word lead somehow kind of could get quoted to me at some point, you know.
Yeah, I'd honestly see it more as you have been empowered to lead rides if you choose to do so. It doesn't have a bearing on how you choose to ride your bike with other people in your own time.
Yeah.
But if it is really concerning you, I'd email coaching at British Cycling just to get clarification on that from them. I think it's kind of like, you know, the same sort of thing as like, you know, when 15 million blokes tell their partners to hang their butt as far off the back of the saddle as they can possibly, because that was correct in the 90s. Like, don't worry about hearsay from everyone else. If it is concerning you, just send an email to British Cycling, because they're the only people who can actually give you a solid yes or no that will give you true peace of mind. But for me, as a British Cycling ride leader, that has no bearing on how I choose to ride my bike socially.
No. And it kind of relates slightly to this question we've had in the chat, which is, do you learn about how to encourage people on the social rides that aren't led to try and navigate themselves? And I think that's a really, really important question. And it's not something from memory that's in the curriculum for ride leader training, but it does fall into this fuzzy area between building a community of a social group of riders that come together, that you're not leading but you might initiate, versus I'm a trained ride leader and I'm doing this official thing, and I state that I'm a ride leader. There's insurance, there's a certain number of people, I know the route, etc., etc. So when we lead social rides in Bristol, you know, and lots of the social rides that I'm sure you've all taken part in, they'll say, you know, you have to be self-sufficient. Here's the route, please download it, make sure that you can get yourself home. No one's responsible for you, no one's leading this ride. There will be somebody who says hi when you arrive, but that doesn't mean to say that they're gonna hold your hand and get you home. You've got to make sure you've got an inner tube and you know how to fix a puncture, etc. So there is a difference, and it's just about clarity.
I'd say a lot of off-road groups don't have that clarity when it comes to navigation. I'd say they do when it comes to what you should bring to be self-sufficient in terms of mechanicals. But I think a lot of the time they'll say it's a no-drop ride, but won't make any specifications about navigating yourself. But I was really explicit with that with all-terrain rides, because I didn't want to lead rides, but also I wasn't putting on rides that were suitable for beginners. So it's really explicit for every all-terrain ride that this is the GPX. You must have it on you on a device and be willing to navigate yourself. Because I didn't want to try and keep a really varied pace group together. I just wanted to have a nice ride myself and for everyone to lead themselves around a route I knew was beautiful, but we'd all see each other at some point at a pub.
Yeah.
But I think it is like, it kind of comes back to the community toolkit that you guys have done and stuff. Like, it's like being really explicit in advance about what people can expect, and especially with women, having that clearly defined just removes one more barrier and makes you feel even more confident about showing up. I think a good analogy is like, if you told all of us we had to go to a gym class tomorrow night, like a bunch of us might suddenly feel out of our comfort zone and be like, oh damn, like what do you wear? Should it be loose fitting or should it be tight fitting? Do I feel comfortable in tight fitting? What do I do when I get there? Do I make eye contact? And it's like, can you answer as many of those questions as possible for social rides before someone even turns up? So then when they turn up, they're like, I know what's going to happen. It's like, yeah, that's from just like really clearly defining what they can expect and what they need.
Yeah, and that is it. As nice plug, thank you, Claire. That is in our FIAS community building toolkit and in the workshop on the 23rd of May at Bike Park Wales as well. We talk a lot about those things and the importance of clarity and how to go about thinking about what kind of community you want to kind of build.
All comes back to marketing.
It always does.
I
would say that, a professor of marketing, but there you go. Any other questions? Louise, again, just jump in. Oh, you're muted, Louise, sorry.
Sorry, I haven't got a question. I was just trying to take the question away.
An old hand. Excellent. Okay.
That's right.
A legacy hand. Any other questions?
I've got a question. Hello. Thank you so much as well for sharing all your experiences and thoughts on ride leadership. It's really interesting. I was wondering if there's such a course that has the level 3 remit, but not the level 3 terrain. Because I did my level 2 a couple of years ago, and I really wanted to go and do my level 3, but I don't feel comfortable on level 3 terrain. I can't really ride it anymore. I don't bounce like I used to, and I wrap myself around too many trees. But yeah, I still wanted to be able to take people out further afield. So yeah, is there such a thing?
Have you ridden a level 3 route?
Probably, but I'm not that comfortable on it. I wouldn't feel comfortable leading a ride, if that makes sense. So just because I don't feel. So when I did the level 2, I think I spoke to the assessor and he said you have to be able to ride down the ranges. Do you know the ranges from Snowdon? It's rougher than the badger's ass. It's so rough. And I was just like, I can't do that. So it really put me off and it felt like a bit of a dead end. So yeah, I don't know if there was. Sorry, what was that?
I'd say he's incorrect. You wouldn't necessarily need to ride something that rough for a level 3 assessment with British Cycling. So technically I can guide anyone anywhere, but what I have been assessed on is my ability to safely assess. Not can I do a hardline road gap jump, because the answer is a solid no. Can I guide someone across one? Yeah, I can. But as I will take responsibility that I have safely assessed whether that is appropriate for that person. And if it's like one of the Athertons, gravy, crack on. I'll enjoy watching. But if it was someone else, probably no.
Okay.
I think there's nothing wrong with the terrain being a bit challenging, because what you're practicing is think of it as like wide focus and narrow focus. If when things do get a bit rougher, can you still maintain a wider focus, which means you can be aware of and look after your people. It's like just getting used to like, actually, can you stop the tunnel vision and just get a bit more comfy so that you can be there for other people. And that, rather than thinking about like, I need to be good on certain terrain and I've told myself I can't do that, it's like, okay, can I just like be a bit more loosey-goosey so that I can be aware of other people when I'm on slightly rougher terrain. But I do think level 3 terrain isn't wildly different to level 2. It's just a little bit more.
Oh gosh, because I thought it was like drops and things and just super steep, and that's the sort of impression I got when I spoke to the assessor.
But you'll be having discussions about those things.
Okay.
You won't necessarily be riding them, because what would be terrible leadership would for me to be taking a bunch of people who can do all of that. I've like assessed their riding throughout the day, and then they're like, we want to do this, and then for me to be like, I must show you how first, and then for me to be like like that's bad leadership. But like creating a space where I know with confidence that they can do it and I can be there
Mhm.
for them.
Mhm.
That's good leadership.
Okay. So I think it'd be such a good thing if there was a level 3 course, but for just gravel terrain. I think it would just open up, so many doors for a lot of people, because not everyone wants to
There
ride
are
mountain bike
changes
terrain and stuff.
coming.
What's
I
that,
was going
sorry?
to say that's going to happen, is it? Surely at some point, it's all
Yeah,
changing.
hopefully.
With British Cycling, we're looking at, it won't be this year, but they've created a new system that will allow people who want to do gravel riding go more remote. So much like
yeah.
riding is a bolt-on. So with
Mhm.
any British cycling qualification, if you want to do night riding, you need to go and do the night riding course, because it doesn't matter about the terrain. It's just so wildly different. You
Mhm.
need to go and practice that on its own. They're also working on a remote bolt-on. So where the terrain won't get any more challenging. So your terrain may
Okay.
stay exactly the same,
Mhm.
but your ability to go to more remote locations will change, and like perfect for gravel, because there's so many amazing trails. I mean, I think of Scotland, like where
So good.
so yeah, there
Mhm.
will be a remote bolt-on that if you didn't want to do more technical terrain,
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
Sounds really cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Does sound good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There seems to be, there's another question about what level 3 means, but I think rather than putting our tutors on the spot asking whether you need to be able to bunny hop and track sand, I think pursue it. My advice would be to pursue it and gain clarification, and really think about whether level 3 is for you, and whether it's something that will enhance your leading, and not be put off by comments in the past perhaps that may have been misplaced. Are there any other questions? Pippa had her hand up but has taken it down, so I'm not sure that's still there. Are there any others?
Can I ask something?
Of course.
So I've done my level 2 and 3 and the first coaching one, but I still feel huge imposter syndrome whenever I go to do like I'm invited to do something, or I just have that constant like I'm not good enough to do that sort of voice in my head. So what kind of tips do you have? Because I feel like that's a very common experience, particularly as a woman. What kind of tips, what kind of things have you done to try and be more confident in yourself and your ability to do stuff?
Great question.
Really great question, and it's very individual, Kate, and really it comes with experience, I think, as well, and time and doing things. So it's those small pushes outside of what you're comfortable with that gradually build up to you feeling confident to do that much bigger thing. But also I would say get somebody else to describe your riding. I'd suggest your brother, Kate. Because he was very critical, and he will be very confident that you could do anything, I'm sure. So get someone else to describe your riding, describe all the strengths that you've got, talk about how brilliant you are, because they will be reflecting about you in reality rather than the lizard brain that's talking to us in our head. So I think getting somebody else to describe your riding and try to give you some confidence like that, but also pushing that comfort zone slowly and gradually so that you build up to those bigger things. Or you could go hardcore like I did once and just go for it and do one of those bigger things. And actually quite a lot of the time it pays off, because we are not going to go into something that puts anyone in danger, because we've done our training, we know what we're doing, and going for that slightly more advanced coaching or whatever it is you might want to coach, sometimes just going for it is a really good way to learn as well. Just think about what suits you personally would be my advice.
Yeah, and I think probably just remember how you felt when you signed up to do those courses, and like those butterflies and that feeling you had at the beginning, and then that feeling you had at the end when you got the qualification. And I feel like guiding feels very similar, of like you have that moment where you're there and you're like, oh my God, I'm here. I hope everyone's gonna have a nice time. It's my fault if they don't have a nice time. Rah! But then like you just ease into it, the same as everyone else on the ride is easing into it. And then at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, how cool was that? And I got to help make it happen. And I think like, yeah, just for me, it's reminding myself that's how it's going to pan out. And that's why I wanted to do the qualifications in the first place.
I'm just going to answer that by going macro, Kate, and saying, you know, the fact that you have your level 2, level 3 and a coaching qualification is in itself transforming mountain biking so that women like you in the future don't feel imposter syndrome. The reason we feel imposter syndrome is because it's a male dominated sport, and this is why we need to encourage more people doing it. So you're solving the problem that you're facing, if you know what I mean, by putting yourself out there, which is awesome. Celeste, this is probably our final question. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the clock. Go for it. You can have that honor to ask the final question. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Still can't hear you though, Celeste. That's weird.
Oh, that is weird. Why is
You got
that?
headphones connected or something?
No, can't hear you. Sorry.
Maybe type it in chat and we can answer it.
Yeah.
In chat for you, Celeste.
No.
Here we go. How quick is Celeste at typing? No pressure.
No pressure, Celeste. No pressure.
You're a weak one finger typer. Yeah, and anyone else as well, if you've got questions, pop them in the chat as well. I agree with Lindsay that the more you do it, you get comfortable with it. But it doesn't necessarily solve the imposter syndrome. I think that for me, I think I got over my imposter syndrome when I realised that I was riding regularly with people who were much better riders than me, much more skillful and faster and fitter, and always will be, but are actually gratifyingly rubbish at convening and leading rides. And I thought, you know what, this is a separate set of skills. You can be as good as you can, and I will never ride the same stuff as you, but actually your ability to bring a group of people together and achieve a joyful experience for those people is not something in your skill set. And so, you know, you can have imposter syndrome about riding, and that's completely different to learning, you know, to realizing that actually you've got a really important role to play in leading groups. I think that's really different.
Yeah. It's a great exercise as well, Kate, of thinking about what the worst thing is that could happen, what's the best thing that could happen, and then the truth will be somewhere in the middle. And I quite often get to my like, what's really going to happen is not the best and it's not the worst, it's somewhere in the middle, and that's probably okay.
Yeah.
And then if you pack surprise snacks for everyone, it'll be slightly better than in the middle.
Always good. It's always good. Okay, here we go. So I'm a fundamentals mountain bike leader and breeze champion. I want to do my level 2, but the remits are similar in that you have to be 30 minutes walk for a land-based ambulance. That doesn't work here in the Cambrian Mountains, which is very limiting. Are British Cycling going to review the remit to make it more accessible for rides in rural locations?
Yeah,
Good
so
question.
that's the remote bolt-on. If you didn't want to go up to more technical riding, this bolt-on that they're creating will fill that gap. Because yeah, I was in the Cambrian Mountains last weekend. So good. But yeah, you could totally do some amazing rides without it getting overly technical. Like, what a treat.
But be nowhere near an ambulance or yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a really good point. So I'm really excited by what I mean. British Cycling don't work particularly fast, I would say, but they do have good ideas that do play out. And they have revamped both the coaching and the guiding qualifications over the last sort of 5-10 years, and are continuing to do so.
2026 thing.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap up because it's 8:30. And thank you both, amazing, and we've got so many more questions. This could have gone on all evening. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Look out for these guys. If they both tutor, they both train up people. So if you are interested, go with these guys if you get the opportunity and you're anywhere near them. They're both amazing tutors. Maria, I'm just going to hand over to you to say closing remarks, but from me, thank you so much, and I'll hopefully see some of you soon.
Yeah, and yeah, just to echo that, a big thank you to Fee, Jo and Claire for sharing all of your insights, and I think it was incredibly useful. And also a big thank you to everybody who's participated and asked questions and engaged in the discussion. It's been a really brilliant discussion, so thank you to everyone. We want this to be an ongoing community of practice, so we've set up a discussion thread on Robin Grant's Trail Alliance platform, which is a platform that's dedicated to kind of mountain biking, and Fee always says it's like Facebook for mountain bikers. So we've set up a specific discussion thread on there for people to kind of share experiences, resources, and so that you can hear about other people's kind of experiences and build connections and discussions and things. So if that's something that you would like to be a part of, drop me an email, and you'll get an email with a link to be able to join that. So just drop me an email if you want to be part of that discussion thread. And we also have an exciting announcement that we wanted to share with everybody today, which is we are offering a ride leader training opportunity. So we've partnered with Pro Ride, so Joe's organisation, and we'll be offering the opportunity for women in Wales to take part in a ride leader qualification. So this is the qualification that Joe's told us a bit about this evening. So the level 1 trail leader qualification. And so this will include the training and assessment over 2 days. And we'll be running this at Cwmcarn, and there's 2 options. So there's the 19th and 20th of July and the 22nd and 23rd of November. And both of these will be led by one female coach, by at least one female coach, and will be delivered in a supportive style, of course. So again, spaces will be limited, so we'll use a Microsoft form similar to what we're using for the community of practice, the community building workshop. And so again, just follow our socials for more details on this, and if you have a look further up the chat, I've posted all of the links for details to be able to follow us, and registration forms and things like that. So just have a look at those links to be able to sort of stay up to date with all of the different activities that we're offering. But yeah,
just really quickly, Maria, it might be level
Yeah,
1 and level 2. It depends on people's logbooked experience, so they may be able to get that level 2 qualification during those sessions as well, which is great.
That's
and also
brilliant.
it's important to say that those sessions will be free. That's a crucial bit of information. So that is they'll be they'll be funded. So that's why it's application only. So we'll ask people, what they're planning to use it for, and what their ambitions are, and so on. And if that's not you, if you've already got your qualification, but please do share, share widely. If you've got friends you think you'd be an amazing ride leader, get this qualification, do share it. So we really rely on word of mouth for this, so thank you.
Yeah, and I've just seen there's a question about the links, so I'll just email everybody, because I've got everybody's email addresses who's on the call, so I'll just email you all the links so you have all of the information there, so don't worry about the chat.
Perfect. Amazing.
Brilliant. Thanks everyone.
Have a good evening.
Maria. Thanks, Bea. Thanks,
Take
Claire.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.